started as a teacher way back in 1979. I'm sure some of you were not even born then. Okay, I started because these young people, all my students, they know they can be their mothers, they said. Okay, so back in 79, it was an interesting journey for me because I started with primary education. Okay, I taught in primary school for a year. I moved on to University Malaya. Then I came back and taught rural schools. Okay, for about 5 years, and then my last school that I taught was Asunta PJ Secondary. Interesting experience because it was like being way back home because I came from the convent. So being in Asunta I was finally home. And then I went to the Ministry of Education after my PhD. I was coordinating World Bank research projects for World Bank and Asian Development Bank. That was a new ball game, and that's where my love for research started. After that, I was sent to, I don't know whether you know, have you been to Genting Highlands? Yes. Okay, I was with the Ministry of Education under Institute Amini Bagi, which is a national educational management and leadership center. I was actually running a number of programs for third world countries, Maldives, Fiji. It was interesting. It was actually very interesting. Life stopped when they started having these competency exams, and I was then, my whole career changed because I was giving the same lecture day in and day out and flying from one state to the other. Just like you, I felt I was not growing anymore. I grew a lot actually when under World Bank. And then I suddenly realized I was in a rut. It was good money actually. The lecturers all were very happy because they could make about 60,000 just in claims, 6,000, 7,000 just in claims, but that didn't attract me because I had to put a bag down and take the next bag and the next flight. So I had to move, and that's when I joined UiTM. It is a big step for me, and I had to do a lot of reflection because all my beliefs and assumptions were all challenged. And that is why I feel reflective teaching has a very important part in our life as educators, again, whichever step we go over. So today what I'm going to share, I've got lots of slides, but I don't think I'm going to talk about everyone. But I think what I would like to share with you all is why reflect, okay? What are some of the tools for reflection that we can use in our place of work, and probably share one of the tools that we can use for reflection is action research. So that's where action research comes in. Okay, I don't know whether, the first thing I would like to ask you to reflect is what is education and what is your purpose in whatever field or whatever. I know not all are lecturers here. What do you understand from the word education? We are all in this business of education. What do you see? What do you think education is all about?
May I share
yes.
what I learned from my primary school teacher, which I find very interesting, but I didn't understand the meaning then. Many years later, I realized I appreciate it. What I learned from a primary school teacher was the purpose of teaching is not to teach one day, and the purpose of learning is to be a lifelong learner.
Okay.
So the role of an educator or a teacher is actually help the student to acquire the patience and skills for learning, and so that the lecturer can stop teaching one day because the student can just learn on their own.
Okay, thank you for sharing. Anyone else do you all agree with what you say? We've got a different perspective. Welcome.
I think I come from non-academic background. Okay, this is what I feel throughout my years of my own learning. So education is like I teach you something, and then later on you make full use of what I have taught you and expound, on it and do even better than the teacher. So education is like
building blocks.
Building blocks, and
okay.
You give room for your students to expand.
Okay, Sam, you want to say something?
Yes, I think this a kind of change noticed in the life of a learner. In the life of a learner, having predetermined the learning outcome.
Learning how to?
Imparting knowledge.
Imparting knowledge. So everyone feels it's imparting knowledge?
I say that it's more of helping learners to make meaning about life.
Yes.
It's like getting to know life.
Getting to know life. Huh? John Dewey said, education is a social process. It's all part of growing. You all are not wrong. I totally agree with you. That is what actually education is also, because equipping them with skills so that they can go on in life, all right? And education is not a preparation but life itself. And of course, as teachers, we give them the tools, as you shared with us, okay? We give them the tools, we share their knowledge, it's all a sharing journey that we are all on with our students, isn't it? We are sharing with them, and as we share with them, we grow too. When I reflect on my students in PJ, I learned so much from them. All my beliefs and assumptions were shaken. Whenever I go to a new school, things that we take along from one place and we go to the other place, I'll just share one experience. When I was teaching in the rural schools in Bagan Dato in Malaysia, that's a fishing village, students were very passive. Students don't say anything, and being Malay students, culturally, they respect the teacher. They don't ask any questions, they just listen and do whatever they asked of the teacher. They don't challenge you. After a few years, I came to PJ, and my students, they're very girls, girls' schools, they like to talk. They can't keep quiet. So when I gave them work, I couldn't understand, because in the rural school, you give them work, everyone will do quietly, whether they understand or not, they will just sit down quietly and do their work. And when I came to this school in PJ, I couldn't understand. There was a lot of buzzing noise going, and it irritated me. And I told them, you stand up, what are you talking about? Aren't you supposed to be writing your essay? She said, but we are doing our work. Why are you so hung up over it? We are doing our work, it's not that we are not doing. Then actually, it took me a time, I had to reflect. I said, yeah, actually what she just said was correct. But I've been in that mode for just too long that I've forgotten my roots, that as a teacher, we expect, there's a certain belief that students just are supposed to do what you say. And here I have a group of students who challenge everything I say. Yeah, and I realized that, yeah, I have to change now, because I had to reflect at the moment, okay, a reflection in action, what is going on. And actually when we reflect, we grow, yes? And education is a part of this growing process. Not only do students grow, I think we as educators grow much more. And the more students you have, the more they talk, and I think I grow much, much more, okay? So what is teaching? That is education. We are all in this world of teaching. What is teaching? Imparting knowledge, equipping them with skills, exchange of knowledge, exchange of ideas, guides, okay. A teacher plays many roles, yes? Teacher plays many roles. And the teacher is the motivator. What else? The coach.
Sometimes the teacher is also the mother.
Yes, the teacher is also the mother. The teacher has so many roles. Yeah, the mother actually.
The mother. Sometimes you have to be the mother in order to keep them with you.
Have you got an experience to share that?
Because I have been teaching this SEM 1. SEM 1 is the tertiary. I don't teach foundation, I only do tertiary. Tertiary SEM 1 is most challenging. I don't know how foundation SEM 1 is. So to keep them with you, we do mass lectures. That means we have 350 students in the lecture hall with us. And it's a mass lecture to keep them 2 hours. It's whether they like you, they don't like you. Because you give them a break, half can disappear, will never come back. To make sure that half to come back, you have to be a mother, halfway of it, so they come back.
Yes.
Because when they email me, I say, yes dear, they will mail me back. Miss Mala, you sound like my mom. I am until you clear my paper.
Yes,
Then keep them come back to you.
Yes.
They do.
Okay, the teacher has so many roles, and I'd like to share this video with you. I want you to reflect on this one.
He says the problem with teachers is what's a kid going to learn from someone who decided that his best option in life was to become a teacher?
Too loud.
He reminds the other dinner guests that, it's true what they say about teachers. Those who can't do,
A bit louder.
those who can't teach. I decided to bite my tongue instead of his. And resist the urge to remind the other dinner guests that it's also true what they say about lawyers, because
The lighting.
and this is supposed to be polite conversation. I mean, you're a teacher, Taylor. Come on, be honest. What do you make? I wish you hadn't done that. Asked me to be honest. Because you see, I have this little policy in my classroom about honesty and kicking, which is if you ask for it, then I have to let you have it. You want to know what I make? I make kids work harder than they ever thought they could. I can make a C+ feel like a Congressional Medal of Honor, and I can make an A- feel like a slap in the face. How dare you waste my time with anything less than your very best? I make kids sit through 40 minutes of study hall in absolute silence. No, you may not work in groups. No, you cannot ask me a question. So put your hand down. Why will I let you go to the bathroom? Because you're bored, and you don't really have to go to the bathroom, do you? I make parents tremble in fear when I call home at around dinner time. Hi, this is Mr. Mully. I hope I haven't called at a bad time. I just wanted to talk to you about something that your son said today. To the biggest bully in the class, he said, "Leave that kid alone. I still cry sometimes, don't you?" And it was the noblest act of courage that I have ever seen. I make parents see their children for who they are and who they can be. You want to know what I make? I make kids wonder. I make them question. I make them criticize. I make them apologize and mean it. I make them write, and then I make them read. I make them spell. Definitely beautiful, definitely beautiful, definitely beautiful, infinitely beautiful, until they will never misspell either one of those words again. I make them show all their work in math class and then hide it on their final drafts in English. I make them realize that if you've got this, then you follow this. And if somebody ever tries to judge you based on what you make, you give them this. You break it down for you so you know what I say is true. I make a difference. Now what about you?
It's actually based on a poem, Power That Lies in the Hands of the Teacher. We have so much power to make the child's life miserable, joyous, okay? We have that power. And that is why it's so important for us, okay, to realize, I don't know in Sanskrit, the word in Malaysia, teacher is referred to as guru. And what is in Sanskrit guru means? I read it somewhere, guru is darkness and ru is light, the dispeller of darkness. We are that light and that power that we have in our hands. So this is something that we need to take care of very carefully, and that is why I personally feel that as a teacher, we need to reflect on each and every action of ours in the classroom, because we make such a big difference to other students in our class. Therefore, okay, though we play many roles, okay, it is up to you to decide the kind of teacher you want to be, okay, the person you want to be. You want to be the mediocre person, you want to be the good person, okay, the superior, or the teacher that truly inspires. And we hope that at the end of the day, all teachers are inspirational. And to reach that level, you have to reflect upon every stage. And if you look at teach, what's the opposite of teach? Learn. The opposite of teach is to learn. And therefore, I saw this quotation somewhere, anyone who dares to teach must not cease to learn. And we are on this learning continuum. Even though whatever job we are on this learning continuum, and we need to reflect on it so that we will continue to grow. Okay, for my next activity, I just want you to sit with your friends and think of all the words that come to your mind that have to do with reflect or reflection. Yes, you can sit with your friend, just reflect on what is to reflect. What are the words that come to your mind when you think of the word reflect?
Wonder.
Okay, just make a list of words and let's see. Hi, welcome. There's a chair for you in front. It's okay, water first, yes.
Rationalize,
Recollect.
Okay, are we done? So who wants to be the monitor to write down all the words? Volunteer? Okay, we'll start here. One word.
Think.
Think. Remember. recall.
Remember?
We'll,
Recall.
never mind, we'll come back to you. I know you just came in. You want?
Ponder.
Okay, remember. Okay, ponder.
Wonder.
P-O-N-D-E-R, ponder. P-O-N-D-E-R.
Okay.
Okay.
Recollect.
Recollect.
What else we have? Focus.
Focus.
Meditate.
Meditate, yes.
How about challenge?
Evaluate.
Challenge?
Okay, challenge.
Inquire.
Okay, inquire. I-N.
Experience.
Okay, okay. To experience, okay.
Evaluate.
Evaluate, very good.
Eliminate errors.
Eliminate errors, okay.
Make improvement.
Yes, okay.
Reassess.
Pardon?
Reassess.
Okay, yeah, just hold on. Reassess. Reassess.
Troubleshoot.
Yeah. Ready? React, yes. Okay, here.
Making sense.
Making sense. Making sense. Making S-E-N-S sense, yes.
Feedback.
Feedback.
Reflect, isn't it?
Okay. Reflect, okay. Huh? Troubleshoot.
All the computer terms. Restart. Scanning. Redo.
Okay. Redo, okay. Learn, unlearn, learn, okay. Learn.
Rewind.
Replay and rewind.
Remind.
Huh?
Very technical.
Remind.
Rewind.
Remind.
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 Brainstorming.
Brainstorm.
Enlighten.
Backspace and forward.
Relearn.
So relearn, unlearn.
Unlearn.
Scorecard.
Enlighten.
Scorecard.
Okay. Scorecard. Okay.
Okay, we will keep. Okay, 27. Any more?
Last one.
Insight.
Insight and insight. Okay. So you see what reflection is. Is it something so easy? That is why some theories, some researchers feel that many teachers say, "Oh, reflect." I reflect all the time. What is reflection? You just look. You have just come up with 27 amazing words. An applause for all of you. Okay. And can we do this? How many of us really do all these things? It's such a challenging process, and that is why reflection is such a big field for you to explore. Just look at one word and try to think how much time you would need that to inquire, to make sense of what you did today. And okay, so I was not able to come up with so many words as you. I just typed out a few words. Okay, mull over, contemplate, synthesizing. Okay, seeking to understand, scrutinizing. Okay, you see, that is what collaboration can do. Now we can all get together and write a book. Can't we? Listen, now we can write a book now on what reflection is all about. Okay, just brainstorming ideas, and we can see there is so much to do in our lives when we reflect. But do we have the time? And how are we going to find the time to do all these things? If we can really sit down and explore and probe and search and examine the things that we do every day, then we will be on this journey of growth that we all want to be. Because this journey would help us grow as individuals in our life, okay, on this journey called life. So, reflection, you have all these notes, don't you? They will get the notes? Okay, the notes you go back and read. I don't think I need to talk about notes, but I just want to highlight certain points that certain researchers have been talking about. Now, Richards is one of the pioneers who talked about the reflective teacher. Okay, and he says it's an activity or process that's recalled and evaluated. We evaluate what we have been doing for the day in relation to improving oneself. Do you agree with that? Yes? And Jennifer has been writing a lot now lately. Jennifer Moon has been writing a lot about reflection. She is still, you could still see a number of her papers up here and there, and I think she stresses that it's a mental process. I guess we all, when we think, we have to put we have to use cognition, is it not? It's thinking about thinking. That's what reflection is all about. We think, we rethink, we unlearn, we relearn. So it's a mental process, and it can be applied in both situations, which is structured and non-structured. While going shopping, are you thinking? When you go shopping, do you think? Yes. You don't think. You just go in and out. You go in from one shop, and that is what actually, there is a term for that. They call it routine. They call it routine reflection. You're reflecting, but it's just like everyday part of day's life. Okay, Dewey, John Dewey, there are two schools of thought. John Dewey is one of them. So John Dewey distinguishes this reflection between routine reflection and reflection in action. Okay, reflective thinking. Routine thinking, reflective thinking. Routine means we take every day as it goes. Most of us do that every day because life is so full of so many things to do. We go into class, we come out, and we go into the next class. We might probably say, oh, that lesson didn't go well, and that's just routine thinking. But we don't go a step further and take any action. We just go, that's routine thinking. Or we go from one shop to the other, look at things and go on. But when we go back, oh, I liked that dress in that shop. I should have bought it. That was much better than this one. Then that's reflective thinking going on, because you're going to go back and recall what happened then. So there's a difference. So researchers would see the difference between routine thinking and reflective thinking. There's a clear, simple example that I can give you. And theories are talking a lot and exploring fields on this, how people at work get into this rut called routine thinking, and they don't take action. But what we want teachers and educators and administrators to do is reflect. Reflective thinking is different from routine thinking, all right? So, David Bowe and David Walker and Rosemary Coe, okay, they talked about the context of learning. It's intellectual and effective because you mix around with people, you get to know people, it's an effective process. We explore experiences, we talk about our experiences to get new understanding. Now I did this didn't go well. How can I make it better? How can my students understand better? I went into class today and I realized that whatever I was doing wasn't getting in. Sometimes the body language of the students show us, is or not? Or the people we are talking to, our spouses, when we talk to them, the body language, we talk to our children, they just reject that, even though they might not say anything. Remember, body language speaks volumes. 75% of communication is body language. So all this science tells us, okay, and it brings about, okay, new experiences for us, and we have to improve and lead from there, okay. So reflection is a very, very difficult, long, tedious process requiring a lot of thinking. And if we want to be truly reflective, we have to sit down, ponder, investigate, and do research on it. Okay, then we would be growing. Okay, why carry it out? You tell me. Anyone? To improve, yes. To get feedback, okay. And to grow, yes or not? And so once we realize what we are doing right and what is not right, we can then look for avenues to improve ourselves, yes or not? In most organizations, when there is staff development, what does? There is one that fits all, yes or not? It never caters for the individual. But when we are involved in reflection, we would then realize this is the cause I need, and this is the cause I want to go for. And I think you will then realize that when you're looking for courses, you're going for conferences, this is a conference I want to go because I think I lack, okay, I'm lacking in this field. And then it helps you go that continuous professional improves and gets on, you get on going because you are doing reflection. I think it has been best put by Richards and Lockhart, who said it leads to deeper understanding of our practices, of what we are doing. We become better informed of our strengths, our weaknesses, our limitations, and we ourselves can evaluate at what stage are we. Are we still exploring have I reached this age of maturity? Do I still, we may reach this age of maturity and yet there is still some room for improvement for us, okay? That needs to change. And reflection makes us more confident of ourselves because we now know what our strengths and our limitations are. So we become more confident. If we do not know where we are and we don't reflect, we will never be sure of ourselves. So I feel reflection makes you a better person, a more confident individual, okay, at the end of the day. Okay, the strengths, I think all your, but this will be in your notes, okay. Learning like this one is, it empowers you. So even in the classroom, I think we have to teach our students, not teach, but help our students to reflect on their daily learning, yes or not? Now today I've done this lesson, how much do you remember? What do you know? Okay, in teaching we say for students to find out that they really understand, they have mastered the topic, they should at least know about 80%. Research shows that you must, if the student can produce 80% of what they have learned for the day, that means they have understood what they have learned. So get them to reflect. Reflection can be a simple thing like, okay, putting up hands, okay, asking simple questions at the end of the class and you see the number of hands. Okay, if you know the answer, you put up your hand. Okay, so just a show of hands is enough for you to know how your students reacted, how much they know. If you do not know, okay, squat. I used to do that in school and the students used to love this simple activity, you know. If you don't know, I will not call you, I say. So they sometimes initially they will, I say be honest to yourself. If you know it, okay, we all start by standing. Okay, if you know, you sit down. If you don't know, you keep standing. Okay, then of course everyone started sitting down. So now I said, okay, everyone sit, if you know, you stand, and then I will call the people who do not know. Then this, of course, sometimes students are not honest. Sometimes you give them a simple pop quiz, 5 questions at the end of the day, okay, and you just say exchange and mark. And if they can get that 5 concepts out and they know out of 3, out of 2 or 4 or 5, say well done, okay. It just takes about 5 minutes, all right. Today there is this technology at our hands, is it not? You can put the questions online. During the time when I was teaching in schools, it was always paper and pen, is it not? But now we are so lucky to be born. I tell my students always, they're so lucky to be born in this age, yes? We used to run in the library and read books. They don't go to the libraries to read anymore. Everything is online, is it not? It's a whole totally different, brand new world for them. And it's time for us, people like me, to reflect and join their world, is it not? I can't be left behind. I have to reflect on myself as a teacher, okay? So it leads to personal growth, you agree? Professional growth, okay? And finally, there is meaningful change. Because there's reflection, we take the action that needs to be done, okay? So teaching, again, I think looking back and doing all these things, okay? I like his definition best, okay? There are 2 main gurus of reflective teaching. One is John Dewey and the other one is Scone. Now John Dewey, if you're interested in exploring this field, he says is active, persistent. As I told you, one is routine, one is when this has to be active. That means you are actively involved in reflecting and doing all these things. Doing all these things, okay? And question back your beliefs. When I first started teaching in UITM, majority are Malay students there, okay, and I was teaching this group of teachers. They were teachers in primary schools who were teaching English, and they, you know, there is this move by the government to ensure that all primary schools teachers are graduates. So they came with diplomas. So I was teaching this group of teachers. They were already in their 4th semester. I went in with this belief and assumption that when you are a TESOL person, you have been teaching for years in TESOL, you've been teaching English in schools, you understand English, you can read and understand English text. So I gave my first lecture, second lecture, very passive, you know, no one answered, and I always, because they had to read and come before class, and then I realized by the 3rd week, I realized they were very passive. So I thought maybe because they are adults, they don't like to engage, maybe they have not, so I questioned them, do you like when your students don't answer you? They said no. Then I said, okay, then they said, I said, did you read this chapter before coming? They said, no, we had no time. I said, okay, today I'm going to make you read in class. Okay, there are 3 pages, you read these 3 pages. And I'm going to ask you 2 questions. And then I realized they could not answer my questions. Then I said, okay, first question number 1, the answer is on page 156. And I asked them, they couldn't answer. Then I said, okay, the answer is in paragraph 2. And they still couldn't not get it right. That challenged my basic assumption that they can read and understand. Then I realized that they do not understand academic texts. They lacked the foundation. And I had to change my whole method of teaching in that class. It was supposed to be, they're working adults. They've been teaching English in schools for close to 5 to 10 years. And they could not understand the text written by Second Language Acquisition by Rod Ellis. They could not understand. And then I was like in a state of shock, okay? Then I realized, oh my God, that is reflection in action. I have to do something now, okay? And what I did for that group is I had to change, I had to go slow with them, I did much slower, and actually they appreciated it. They say, you're the first lecturer who took, there have been 4 semesters that took the trouble to understand us. We don't understand the texts. The texts are very difficult. They are written by academics, by theorists, by researchers, and they don't understand academic English language. They don't understand because they have not been reading research books. So in Second Language Acquisition, why do you, the theorists that go, they just couldn't comprehend. But when I was able to relate that theory to their experience, because then I realized I had to read Malcolm Knowles, The Adult Learner. They had experiences, but they were not able to relate their experiences with the theories. So when I realized that, I had to change my method of teaching, and I had to do something for them. I had to take an action. Actually, I did help that group. Finally, I told the admin, I said, you have to help this group, because we are going to then send out 30 teachers who are graduates now who do not understand academic texts. So we got them a $10,000 program to go to British Council to improve their writing and reading academic skills, academic reading and writing skills. I hope it helped, because after that semester I do not, but they were really thankful. So I guess when we reflect, it has to be active, it has to be persistent. I could have stopped there and done like what all the other lecturers were doing, day in and out, go routine lectures. I could go on with my routine lectures and they would probably get a C or a B, okay, and they would just go on to the next semester, not actually understanding what academic reading skills involved, okay. So I think it will actually change our beliefs. It really shook, when I went to this university, it really shook all my beliefs and assumptions. And I think that is why reflection is very important. Even a simple incident that happens in the classroom would beg for reflection. And that is what reflection is all about, okay? So it has to be conscious and voluntary effort, sometimes to establish a belief upon a first basis of evidence and rationality. We have to rationalize. Okay, so I'm really into Dewey's thinking, definition of reflective thinking. And the other school that I want to share with you, because I don't want to be too theoretical, the other person is that you should know is Scon. He is one of the first person who wrote about the reflective practitioner. Remember, John Dewey was in the 1910, 1930s, and he came much later. He talked about 2, reflection in action and reflection on action. He has got 2. Remember, I told you Dewey has only 2, routine thinking and reflective thinking. Scon brought about a different idea, reflection in action and reflection on action. So I'll just show you the part that where his theory works. So later when you get the notes, you can look at it. This is Scon, 1980s. Now he said that this is governing variable. Now when we teach, when we are into something, we get a scheme of work, we get the syllabus, okay, the aims and objectives of our program, is it not? Every program is the aims and that's the governing variable. And then we have the action strategy, where this what goes on in the classroom, the activities that the teacher carries out. Is it lecture, is it brainstorming, is it reading and writing? So that is the action strategy, and the consequence, what is the result? What do the students achieve at the end? They get the A, they get the B, they get the C, or they get what kind of learning actually takes place. Now if it's only single loop, that means the teacher is only concerned with what happens in the class and the results. That's where many of us actually are, and I was there at that one moment. Many of us are actually sometimes just doing that. Okay, I've taught this, do they understand, and that's it. But how many of us really look at the results and go back to the objectives of our program, okay, the objectives of our syllabus? Now that is reflection on action. This is while teaching is going on, this is reflection in action, this is reflection on action. Can you see the difference? Okay. So it is something like this, all right? The lesson planning, the implementation, and the result. How engaged are your students is reflection in action. But how was the lesson overall? Were the students at the end of the, like if I'm teaching English, at the end of the semester or the end of year 6 or the end of year 5, they should be able to carry out a conversation with someone. Are they able to do that? Are they able to write a letter to someone? Okay. They might be able to do the little simple activities that I do, fill in the blanks, okay, arrange the sentences, okay, but are they able to plan what the government had, what our program actually at the end wanted them to do, okay? So these are the two schools of thought where reflection is concerned. Do you think thinking can be assessed? Can I measure how reflective you are? Can we measure reflective thinking?
Yes.
Can. How?
The simplest way is as you think, you write down what you think, so you're able to
But can I measure whether Philip and you, which one is a more reflective thinker? Too subjective.
Each person has their own level of reflection.
There's a different level of reflection. How do I measure that? Okay, A is a better reflective thinker than B and C and D.
Because every individual has their own ability, right? So we cannot say that he is.
The question is actually whether we can assess the level of reflective thinking of individual, not make it the same.
Not make it the same.
You are not comparing one individual with
No.
the other.
To measure.
Know the person's,
To know the person. Okay, so but can we, do you think we can assess thinking?
yes.
Can, huh?
Whether it is relevant to the desired output.
Yeah, okay. But how do you measure it? Questionnaire. Oh, very interesting.
Thinking also with people questionnaire.
Yes.
I think your experience, the example you gave, is a very good example, because the students, they gave you feedback that you are the first lecturer who actually take into cognizance their weaknesses and the challenges they are facing. This
Okay.
means you are more reflective compared with the other lecturer.
Based on the feedback, yeah?
More reflective.
Okay, yeah. So do you want to know whether how reflective you are? Okay, now I'm going to give you an instrument. Actually, there's a lot been written about assessing reflective thinking. There are two schools of thought. They say reflective thinking is something very qualitative. Okay, it cannot be measured in you cannot quantify it. Firstly, because there has been no one encompassing definition of what thinking is all about. Okay, there are so many theories coming up with different definitions, and what is actually thinking all about? Because it's something that happens in the brain, and no one can really up to today understand how we rationalize things. Okay, but nevertheless, there have been a number of instruments that come up with a lot of critics. I've come across one which I thought was okay, which has been used by a number of researchers. I will let you explore into that and then decide for yourself where you are, and then we will get back. They came up with 50 strategies on how to be reflective. So why don't you just try this and let's see where you are. Okay, they came up with 50 action strategies. I think this is the only book that I came across that can actually trying to look into assessing it in a quantitative manner. But all this while, I'll share with you the findings of a study of mine, which is very qualitative normally. It's more of writing, reflecting, more of qualitative data, and it's quite difficult because researchers among themselves say you cannot define and you cannot quantify what thinking is all about. So if you are at this technical, and normally at this stage you are maybe still grasping with methodological issues. Okay, as a teacher, you describe behaviors in simple terms. You are not able to think beyond why the student did something or why I did something. Okay, you are still at the surface level. Okay, still at the beginning level. Okay, and you are very task oriented. I think what is important here, you are task oriented. You want, okay, did the lesson go on well? Yes, it did, and that's it. Okay, whereas when you come to contextual, you begin to think about things that happen. You're more reflective at this stage, and I think that's where many of you are. Okay, I notice many of you, okay, at this age, you also try to go back to things that you were taught. Theory states this. Okay, students must be engaged, so I must make sure my students are engaged, is it not? I cannot be the teacher, centered, teacher centered. I have to do some activities for my students, because theory states that keep your students occupied. Learner centeredness, because you still try to go back on that. You try to relate your theory. You focus on actions. Okay, you try to carry out some analysis. Okay, sometimes students are not doing well. Let me look at their scores. How many students got A? Which are the sections they were not able to answer? There's simple analysis that we do at our job places or not. So once you start getting involved there, sometimes when you're at technical level, okay, but if you're getting like 20% of them were not able to, 80% were not able to handle section C now. You are doing your analysis, you're trying to get more interpretive, so you're at that level. Whereas when you come to dialectical, you're already questioning practices. Books say this, but I don't think it works, because my experience has told me that these things don't work. So you begin to question theories, you begin to question practices, okay, established practices, because you have learned it in your classroom, or maybe you have learned it from your experiences, and experiences play a more important part at this stage. Because you have gone through that whole process maybe, okay, and you begin to question things, right? Question practices, more disciplined inquiry, you address ethical and moral issues. At the root of it in teaching, we are all very morally, the morality actually really comes into us, okay. They said scratch any teacher and the morality and the moral aspect will come out. Yes?
Thank you, Prof. Please, at this juncture, I want to ask a question. I want to link it with what Doctor has said before we started the program. Was saying something about the seminar he attended where the learning process was questioned. And you made mention of something that you were teaching some school as a kind of a submissive culture where students respect the teacher, they do not ask questions.
Yes.
When I was doing my master in Monash, we discovered that what you are saying, most students, even at the master's level, they don't ask lecturer questions. And I discovered that the emphasis is on how to score high mark, higher distinction, 70, 80. But for those of us from developing countries, I'm from Nigeria, and some of my colleagues are from Pakistan and the other African countries. We come from a challenging culture. If you ask me to sit down, I will ask you, why should I sit down? That is the question. So we are not, the emphasis is not the high score. Over there we study to know, but I discovered that we study to pass. And that is why we see students coming from Africa. In most cases, if you are a second class upper student, you must be one of the best students who come here. Because when I did my program there, I came out with this teacher, but that is not my area of concentration. But we study to know, we discover why this. So we read ahead of the lecturer.
Yes.
We want to question certain things. But here, I discovered students that they even cram, they memorize everything they put down. And the following day, because I finished my final SCC exam, I think the day before yesterday, and I discovered where I attended a lecture in Malaysia here. When I went in the class, I would see the student calculator this and that. So that's them. Because I tend to listen to the teacher, and I want to bring what I've read in the newspaper, what I've heard on the news, and to relate what the lecturer is saying, and really apply it. What I've read about the main bank, what I've read about when we are doing financial management or that, your corporate governance. So I want to know, why did Aaron collapse? Why did they, how do we do it? So I want to ask, this thing you are calculating, how do you arrive it? This one I don't know. You are doing like this now. So I now discover at the end of the lecture, they will now finally go and meet the lecturer. Please, but why can't you ask the question openly? So what I'm saying,
like, it's a cultural thing.
The reason I'm asking this question, when I feel this for, I for this dialect level, because of my
background.
and experience that
Yes.
we question our teacher,
Yes.
we question our professor. So the emphasis is not IMAC, but what can you do with the certificate is key. The three domains are taken to cognizance: the psychomotor, the affective, and the what we call it affective domain.
Yes.
Now, what can you do? So we question. So like what I said, I think like what Doctor said initially. I think this is the high time for the educators and the researchers
Yes.
to stop emphasis, because when you see government awarded scholarship, you score 8 A's. Then wait, that's not
Yeah,
emphasis.
they come with the lorry
It's
truckloads
starting
now.
to go. It's starting to pass a law.
I think some it's really cultural.
Yes, I
Because
agree
it's
with
the
you.
same. It's the same struggle when I joined UM as well. You know,
Yeah.
totally. You know, it's a culture shock for me because students are just looking at me. You know, no matter
Give us
how
the
you
input.
want to
Give me the
pose some
answer.
questions and engage, they are not. But I think for us, even we are part of the Asian or Southeast Asian group, Philippines has a very unique experience. You know, I think in terms of social development, we experience more of the influences. You know, of the people who colonized the
Masters,
country.
yeah.
You know, and this gave us a different kind of perspective in just asking things. You know, if I do this, I need to know why. You know, but for some people really in Malaysia, especially students, they will just sit down there and listen to you.
Yes.
They will not ask you
Education
whether it
system.
is good for them or bad for them. They will not. As long as it is
How
coming
handsome
from
you are.
as long as you are the teacher, they will not question you.
Yes, it's a
they told
cultural
that to
thing.
me. Yeah, it's cultural.
It's
cultural.
and thank you for sharing, because I think it's really something to do with the culture and the school system. That is why now in Malaysia, many students, parents who can afford, do not send them to the national schools. They're sending their children to private schools. When I was in the ministry, we had this study called Memperkasakan Sekolah Kebangsaan. We have to re-establish, why are parents leaving the national schools? Because of this cultural. Okay, the students grow up very passive. And I can understand what you're saying, okay, and we all share, and I think what is to be blamed here is the education system, because the teachers in the classrooms do not allow for question time, is it not? And they have actually built in, it's conditioned, they're all conditioned to listen. So that is why when they come for tertiary institutions, they just bring that culture along and they say, give me the answers. I don't want to think about the answers. Why don't you tell me? If we don't give them the answers, they say, you're not a good lecturer because you didn't.
It
Model
was too
answers.
scary. It was too scary.
Too scary for you.
The student who raised his hand when I was in UM, he boldly stand up and say, "How can I get an A in your class?"
Oh,
Oh my goodness! What will you do if you have that kind of student? How are you going to bring them the value that it's learning? It's not about A. You know, I can already give you an A.
yes.
But that is the orientation. That is the mental model.
Collective actually.
Pardon?
Okay. When students target for A,
Yes.
there are certain benefits.
Strategies.
That they get, isn't there? They get certain benefits like scholarships, this and that. It's already been nurtured at the top level itself. Like students who get 8A, 13 A's, they are honoured. You see?
And also
Students
parents
who
play a
get-
role, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Students
Parents
have
have already built in them the
those
A's.
who
Yeah.
have a higher CGPA will get scholarships.
Yes,
you
and
see?
as I told you, when I went to that school in PJ, I was challenged because when I was teaching actually one of the last classes, but the students were articulate. Okay, they were articulate. That was back in when I was teaching Asunta. It's not the same as it's now. In the 80s, the students were articulate. Even they were in the last class, the students were very articulate. So one of the parent came and I said, and because I'm so used to all the students getting the A's, so the student got a B. I said she needs to pull up the socks. The parent answered me, I think she's doing fine. So you see, I had to reevaluate what my standards were, because I came up with that generation. My father said you only can, in my family, my father said you only can get number 1, 2 and 3. Number 4, I'm not signing your report card. I came from that kind of family. My father was a disciplinarian. Number 4, you don't show me your report card. So you see how much pressure we were. So when I became a teacher and when I was sitting with the parent, I said, I think your daughter got a B here and I think she needs to buck up on this. He said, I think she's doing fine. So I just had to shut up and to reevaluate myself. I had to then start reflecting. Okay, and I think I really share what you have said, and I hope tertiary students in Malaysia would actually start to open up. I do not know what students are in Taylor's. Do they open up because you are probably the better students compared to the public universities? You have a mix, huh? So if we reflect, normally we will question. We questioned already formats they're given. We question practices already established. Because when we have our experiences, we'll fall back. After this, I'll share with you a study that I did with my student who is a preschool. When they go for teaching practice, we ask them to keep a journal. Journal is a very good way of reflecting. She questioned, though she did not dare ask me on my face, she wouldn't dare say, I don't want to do this. But in her diary, she wrote, my lecturer told me to do this, but I realized it does not work. You see, so then when she is able to reach this level, then I know I can see her growth. We can measure that growth. We can measure that stage of reflection in qualitative means. I can see that. But throughout my career, I found it very difficult to measure it quantitatively like yourself. Okay, you feel, who am I to say this? I do not know, but I can tell you, I can describe you. I can do that criterion referencing, but I cannot do that norm thing, for reflection, where reflection is concerned, all right? Okay, so you all know where we are going, okay? So this is one of the researchers who have actually looked at it. And I think as teachers, we also need to look at sometimes how our students think. Get them to reflect. How did you come to this answer? Not many of us do that. Okay, in reflective thinking and learning, sometimes the students come up with a whole different look at things that perhaps we didn't look at it because we are so set in our ways sometimes. We say there is this only one correct path, and we do not see the path that the students have taken. So sometimes it's good to reflect and ask our students, sit down with them and ask them, how did you come about this? Can you share with me? And that is all reflection. Okay, watch this interesting video and we'll show you how you get protein. And just think, sometimes you just ask your students, tell me, think aloud and tell me, how did you get this protein? We never ask our young children when they're growing up, isn't it? We just say it's wrong, we put a big red cross and that's it. But we never sit back and ask them and ponder, what happened in this brain of this child that came up with this answer. And actually sometimes when we really ask our students, I also did a lot of research on think aloud protocols. I presented a few papers. I'd like to share if I have time later on think aloud protocols, asking the students why they came across this answer, and I can map it out. I really enjoyed doing that when I was doing my masters. Okay, and when you can really picture and the whole thought processes, right?
5% to you, Papa, and 25% divided between the 5 of us. Ina, Crowbar, myself, Tom, and the baby. That makes 5% for each one of us.
Billy, you're cheating yourself. If there's 25% divided among the 5 of you, that's 14% apiece.
Oh, no, listen, Pa. I wouldn't cheat you. You know I wouldn't. Now, look here. I'll show you. We're on this out here. Now, 25 divided by 5 is 5. You see, 5 won't go into 2, will it? No. But 5 goes into 25 5 times, you see?
You're wrong, Billy. I'm pretty good mathematician. Now, 5 into 25, 5 won't go into 2.
No.
But 5 goes into 5 once. Now, we didn't use the 2 before, so we just want 10.
Oh, yeah.
5 into 25.
Five plus 5 is 25.
I'm surprised it's your mother.
Not the mother's turn.
14 is 25. 5 times 4 is 20. 5 times 1 is 5.
You're wrong here because I'm wrong. We'll put down 5 14s here. 14, 14, 14. There. Now I'll prove to you by addition that 5 14s is not 25. 4, 8, 12, 16, 20,
21.
reflect how they got the 14. Many times we don't do that. And I realized when I was teaching English, when simple reading comprehension passages, I asked them to think aloud, and actually I put fun actually doing that research piece, because you never know the way they think. And if you're a maths teacher, how are you going to help? They're wonderful teachers. So you see the importance of reflection and getting students to reflect on. Sometimes when you realize that some students are hitting your head against the wall, why can't they understand? So it's good to ask them to think aloud. And I videotape them, while they were doing it, I videotaped and I asked them, I was really very into research at one time of my life when I was a teacher, because I was doing my master's and I had so many students, I could work wonders with them, and I tried with these 4 students to do one average in 1 week. Simple quiz, simple reading comprehension. A lives here, B lives here, so tell me who lives at C. Simple thinking, reading comprehension skills. And I was amazed at their thinking, the way they think. Okay? Cognition, metacognition, all play such an important part. And my research, and I think also research has proven that cognitive skills alone are not sufficient. You need cognition with pairing with metacognitive, and I'm still working on my research called the cognitive block. No one has written on it. I'm still working into it, called such a thing as cognitive block. And when you approach this cognitive block, there is nothing that can pull you out of that until you learn a metacognitive skill. The students with limited learning abilities are there because they do not have that practice of metacognition, and that is why in my PhD I really put forward that you have to teach. You have to make students practice metacognitive skills. We have to give them activities where we challenge them. That's why the thinking curriculum is so important. Not, as you say, asking them to question, why is this like that? Why do I have to do it this way? Can I do it in another way? Why don't you try it and tell me whether it works? Let the students figure it out for themselves. Let them think through that process. Many a time what we do is we give them the answer and they memorize it, not knowing the process of how. The problem with teaching is many teachers give them what, but do not teach them the how or why they have to do it. So if we can get our students to reflect on their learning, and we sit down with them and question their thinking processes, then I think we can probably help many more students who are maybe left behind or lagging behind. Okay? Because sometimes we fail to understand that. I presented this in Sarawak. I guess you all know from crayons to perfume. Does that phrase sound familiar to any of you? No. To serve with love. Only generation this one. Okay, to serve with love, from crayons to perfume. Okay, this is a study that I carried out with. I traced the development of 2 teachers, okay, 2 teacher trainees who had gone to schools, okay, and when they go to schools for a 3-month practicum to teach, they have to keep a journal of every day what happens in class, okay, of their reflections, okay. So I have 2 trainees, Gaia and Sam, both aged 22, okay, they were writing their entries, and what I did is I investigated their entry to find out, okay, to investigate how reflective it was and how did it help them grow. Does reflection help a teacher grow? Okay, so I will just share with you the finding of Gaia's journey. Okay, she's 22 years old with no teaching experience, and she has been given a posting in Shah Alam School. Okay, and she is teaching English to Form 3B and Form 3D. Now, in most cases, normally in government schools, they do not allow trainee teachers to teach examination class. In Form 3, they sit for a public examination, but because this teacher had gone on maternity, and so this Gaia was supposed to teach 3B and 3D. So when you're teaching an examination class, the Malaysian system is such, it's an exam class. Make sure you complete the syllabus. Make sure you do it fast. Everything should be done by August or September because they need to do their revision. So she is stressed out. So she has a lot of challenges. Reading her diaries, just sharing with you, this is one tool for reflection. one important role reflection is, you see, when I read her first reading, I read her whole diary, which is 3 months. I read it and I realized that the first week, she's very delighted, very happy. First time going into a school, everyone is calling her Cikgu, teacher. She felt great. Okay, that feeling. She understood the school. She was enthusiastic, excited. Okay, for those who are into research, you have to code. Gaia week 2, entry 3, paragraph 2, line 1. I can't wait to start my first lesson. So the enthusiasm is there, the passion is there. I want to start. I'm so happy. Everyone is so nice. You go to a new place, everyone is so cooperative. They're willing to help. And then comes week 3, the reality of life sets in. Okay? What happens? Why aren't the students responding? Okay, the students are not responding. I spent such a great long time preparing interactive lessons because we told them you have to be interactive. Students must be engaged. The students are not responding. She failed to understand the culture. You see, being TESOL students in my class, they are quite articulate. TESOL students are normally very vocal. They like to question. They like to ask. So when they go into school, the reality sets in, because in the university, when they are sitting in the university, when they do micro teaching, their friends are in the classrooms. So the classrooms are, so when they prepare the lessons in the reality in life, people do not respond. And when I looked at all the challenges and everything, I could find that she had few challenges. One was classroom management. There were some very naughty students who don't want to pay attention, 3D. Okay, she had difficulty teaching because the students were mixed abilities, all right? And she had logistic issues. She wanted to start class at 7:30 or 7:40, and the teacher before that does not want to leave the class. Now she's robbed of 10 minutes, and how is she going to catch up? Her supervisor is sitting at the back. Oh my God, what is this? Okay, she was always talking about these things. Today I was 10 minutes late. The teacher before that did not want to come. The students were busy doing their maths. They did not want to pay attention to me. So you see, maths was a problem, but then the students in science classes are always doing maths. Huh? They come in late. And of course, the teacher, the mentor in the school was harassing her. You are too slow. You have to finish the syllabus. So this was some of the challenges that she faced by week 3. So you could see these writings in her book. I realized that teaching is really hard work. I've never spent so much time preparing for my TESOL classes in the past 3 years in campus. And the students say it's a tough time teaching. Some students are good, some are weak. So example of logistics, I now understand why people say time is precious. Most of my classroom time is taken away due to long assemblies. Okay, sometimes the students come to class late, and sometimes the previous teacher comes out late from class. I'm really worried because I have to complete my syllabus. Okay, I think teaching is really tough as I'm every day spent preparing. I wonder how other full-time teachers coping with 25 teaching periods a week. I also worry that teaching is slow. Okay, they have got to sit for the exam. Okay, so you can see examples of week 4 to 6. So this is her this one. Now, if I put it and I'm not showing you the full thing, you could see her level. Huh? In week 1, in week 4 to 5, she's aware. There's awareness. I don't seem to have good class control. Some teachers have gone with their handphone, they don't listen to me. By week 2, she gets involved. She's aware of the problem. Now there's growth in her, you see. In that week, she's only aware. She's reflecting, she's aware there's a problem. Now by week 6 and 7, she gets involved. I'm so tired and suffocated, okay. The teachers of little help, okay. Now what they go do, they turn to books. When you ask someone, no one gives you the answer, they have to turn to books. She started reading the books. Classroom management book, not helping. Now she has to do something. Now she's growing as a teacher, I could see that. She takes intervention. Now after 12 hours of crying at home, she talked to her parents, she talked to her friends, and she realized the friends cannot. So I have decided to be firm with my students. Now when they go as training teachers, they're very nice. They want the people to like them. They do beautiful things. They say nice to students. They never scold them. Reality has struck in. You and I know. You and I know. You have to be firm sometimes. But she had to learn. After 7 weeks, she learned that I have to be firm. I realized that reading alone is not enough. And by week 10, she's more creative. She becomes more creative. I have to keep an eye. You see, I don't want to tell them to her. I don't want to tell that because as supervisor, I want her to learn. Learn, ask her to grow. I said, think about it. What do you think? Now she says, yeah, I keep an eye on the students who are naughty. I call them more often. Now, if I had given them all the answers, then she would not have grown. I wanted her to discover it for herself. Now, you can see the growth. You see, if you look at reflection in a journal, you would see the growth in her. Because everything every day something happens, she writes it down, she reflects, she cries, she reads. And this is what reflection is all about. And I think anyone who wants to get into reflection, one very important tool is using a reflective journal. Okay, writing our experiences down. Similarly, the classroom teaching, same thing happened. Okay, the change. She realized, but towards the end, you could see a very upbeat again. At the end of the journal, after 3 months, okay, she could see a rejuvenated Kaya in her writings. Okay, they were upbeat. She said students were interested in today's lesson because she was doing Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. The students went crazy because now she's doing fun activities. One way to get your students involved is doing fun activities. Get them stories, tell them songs, give them songs. And now, okay, I can put aside for students who still have problems. What brought about this change? This is me, she's telling me, because I told her you must teach grammar in context. She says, difficult. I want my students to understand. Sometimes it's better to teach grammar in isolation. So you see, she's challenging what actually I've told her, but she didn't tell me in my face. But she's reflecting because she has done it. She realizes it doesn't work. They are sitting for an exam. I have to teach it in isolation. So you see, she is growing as a teacher, and I can see that growth. So ladies and gentlemen, so that is it, a tool, a very important tool for reflection, the journal. Okay. So what I did in campus is very different from the reality of life. Okay? So she as a teacher, I can see the growth in her, and I could see her growing from awareness to involvement. She might not have reached that last stage of transcendence. Transcendence means when you're able to teach others, you're able to share. She was at that, okay? She was from novice, developed. She was getting between developing and proficient there, but she had not reached that stage. Of course, we have to rely on theory, okay? Knowledge for practice, knowledge in practice. This is what you learn in school. Okay, for practice, you learn the theories, okay, they work. By this time, okay, in practice, from her experiences, she realized that some things work and some things do not work. And now, she can actually tell her friends, knowledge of practice. I tried this does not work. When you go to school, you don't be very nice, you keep an eye on the naughty students. Now she is of practice, even though we know, you and I know, because we experience. But you can see, okay, so if you chart them, if you chart the journey, you can see it somewhere here, okay? This is quite an interesting piece of work that I enjoyed doing, okay? So we get students every semester, they go out and teach. So you can see Sam and this one, okay, this is, they are introduced at what they thought about journaling, okay? Another important tool is action research. Okay, action research, I guess you all know. If you have a problem, you notice a problem, you don't do anything, it will remain a problem. But if you do something about it, okay, one thing that you can do is do action research. Action research means you take action. Okay? You reflect. I have a problem in class. Students do not listen to me. So what am I going to do? I'm going to have fun lessons. That's a plan. I have fun lesson in class today. I observe. Did they enjoy it? Some enjoyed, some didn't. Okay? Then I revise my plan. Maybe I had more fun than them. So maybe I should go back and do something else, okay? I revise my plan now, okay? Maybe I will ask them to come back and then I will reply and goes on, okay? So example of a simple action research that you can do, okay? We all have students bored and sleeping in class. Okay? Find out why they are bored. Are they lazy? Are they tired? Okay? Many of them are tired. I heard our discussion this morning, okay? Are they lacking in skills? Then how can I make my students interested? Okay, maybe I want to do role play. Okay, get them involved. Okay, let's try role play. Okay, and how did they react to that role play? Were they excited? Did they listen with interest? Were they involved, or were they still quiet or dull and bored? If they were interested, okay, then okay, I will continue it. If they were not interested, there was something, some of them could not role play because of limited language ability maybe, okay? Maybe they were shy. What else can I do to make them come out of their shell? Okay? So maybe if not, then you try a new strategy, alright? I've also done something on action research, okay, on repeated reading with students, and it came out in the Result Spain newsletter. This will summarize all what we're talking about. All this gold, all video clips.
Oh my god, this is so
The classroom. Daily occupied by students with eager minds, ready to be filled with the vastness of knowledge that you as a teacher hold. And while you as a teacher would always like things to go well in your class, sometimes that won't be the case. Let's join Mr. Bubblemeyer halfway through his 2-hour fourth period class, and let's see how he is doing. Uh-oh, the class doesn't look like it seems to be going very well. Little Billy has an ice pack on his head. Some of the students are writing, but they appear nervous or anxious. And Benny seems to be crying. And Johnny? Well, Johnny seems to be more interested in his hair. Let's find Mr. Bubblemeyer and see if we can find out what's wrong. What's the matter, Mr. Bubblemeyer? Are you having a rough day? Is the class not going the way you expected? Is the problem the kids? Are they being dumb and academically challenged? Would you call them stubborn and stupid? But is the problem really them? Could it be something else? Could it be you? That's right, Mr. Bubblemeyer. It could be you. And through the process called reflective thinking or reflection, we can determine what went wrong. Before we begin, let's ask ourselves, what is reflection? Reflection, simply put, is the process of thinking, questioning, problem solving, and decision making. For a teacher, it means to put on one's thinking cap to consider educational issues, themes, events, circumstances, and topics. And as a teacher, you must think deliberately and carefully about issues and practices. Reflection will inspire you to ask not only what happened, but why. So, Mr. Bubblemeyer, let's put on your thinking cap. Do you have a thinking cap? No? Then what do you have? Boxer shorts. As long as they're clean, that will be fine. That's right. Now, let's begin to reflect for a moment on what happened earlier in your class. When teachers aren't able to reach their goals, they must find out what went wrong and then see what they can do in the future to make their objectives more attainable. Now let's begin by asking ourselves just a few questions. Were your lessons meaningful and relevant to your students' lives? Did they seem interested in what you had to say? Were they easily distracted? And what about the way you wrote your notes on the board? Were your students able to keep up? And what about the way you handled sleeping Billy? And how did that affect your students? Well, Mr. Bubblemeyer, it sure looks like you could stand to change a few things. Do you see why it's important to reflectively think? Let's take a moment and see exactly what the process of reflection is and how it can benefit you as a teacher. Reflection is cyclical in nature. It involves developing and refining the skills to think, question, reflect, and to act, all of which are connected to each other. The cycle of reflection begins when teachers think about issues and concerns associated with teaching and learning. There are, however, different levels of thinking. At the surface level, little deliberation or contemplation is involved. Take the thirsty Mr. Jones. It doesn't take much thought to realize he could go for a cold syrup, especially when he has a handful of change. But what if we remove some of that change? Different sodas cost different amounts, Mr. Jones. Thinking has now become more purposeful for Mr. Jones, who must now choose. And still more thought is required as Mr. Jones must choose between buying a soda and repaying the money he borrowed to coach many of the girls' basketball team. You see, Mr. Bubblemire, what is involved here is the depth of thinking that is required. If you are alert, you begin to monitor your thinking and the procedures involved in your thinking. This is called metacognition. It's when you think about how you are thinking and the strategies you use to process information. Remember when you put on your thinking cap and ask all those questions? You begin the cycle of reflection by thinking about and recalling experiences and events that happened throughout your class. When it comes to reflective thinking, teachers become investigators who probe, inspect, study, and examine in order to convert a predicament that is confusing, confronting, and disturbing into a situation that is clear and comprehensible. It is necessary in order to find a list of possible solutions. So you see, Mr. Bubblemire, by thinking our way through today's lesson and experience, we can help find solutions to the problems that you experienced earlier.
Okay, so it is cyclical. It is like a cycle. You don't stop thinking. You don't stop making changes, isn't it? You question everything or any problem that is in your class. What actually triggers you to take action? When there is a problem, where you have to do something now, okay? You experience a problem, then you have to do something. That is when you start thinking, when you start reflecting. Why did it happen? How did it happen? And what am I going to do about it? Okay? Then so it's cyclical because you have to plan now, you have to carry out the action, you have to reflect on the action that you have taken, and then reflect again. It's cyclical, it goes on, it never stops. Reflective teaching and learning is something that's ongoing, like formative, huh? It's ongoing, so you keep improving, okay? And as a result of your production, you might do things differently or similarly, because sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, isn't it? You can take action 1 and action 1 did not work, but if action 1 worked, then you can continue. And that is why, because of that, you will continue to grow professionally. Okay? With that, ladies and gentlemen, be the change you want to see in the world. The change starts from you. Remember, thinking is both within you, intra, and also inter. We can also do thinking by sitting down with your friends, reflecting on our practices. There are 2 or 3 of you teaching the same group, isn't it? So you can sit, and so that thinking is not only something that you do in isolation. Thinking is also something that you can do interpersonally, okay, or within you on your own. If you are doing on your own, I think it's best to keep that reflection journey. Okay, of course, many of us do not have the time. Many of my students do not want. But we made it compulsory because research has indicated that students learn best when they reflect on how they learn. Similarly, in our job place, okay, if we look into things that, okay, and we reflect on our actions, then you will probably be better off, okay? I think I share what Richard and Nan said. Experience itself is insufficient. But when you couple that experience with reflection, you will grow by leaps and bounds. Okay, any questions?
I'm just wondering, knowing that reflective learning is very, very important, I'm just wondering what are the possible techniques that we can encourage our students to be motivated to practice reflective learning, knowing that they are more concerned about remembering or knowing how to get A, for example, to pass exam. So how to encourage them and to practice
there are many
reflective.
tools for reflection. Okay, of course, one is by questioning. Questioning, self-talk is one. Why did I do like this? Okay, the simple structure: self-talk, questioning, self-questioning. Okay, they have to. If the students self-question themselves, then why did I do so badly in this? What did I do that was wrong? Okay, how can I improve this? Then only they would go to the right person to help. So if students just know something is wrong and they don't go for help, so encourage your students to self-talk. These are strategies of thinking strategies. Okay, there are 3 types of strategies for thinking: cognitive, metacognitive, and socio-affective. They have the, remember, we learn a lot from our friends. So when the student, tell your students, if you're not happy with something, you don't want to come and see me, ask your friends. Okay, questioning, self-talk, okay, peer cooperation, collaborative learning. All these are strategies that will help a student reflect on their own learning. Of course, having dialogues with teachers, like thinking aloud protocols. When they do something, ask them to think and record how follow the thought processes that I did. That I did with my students on research is I make them think. I videotaped them when they were doing the puzzle, when they solved the puzzle. Then I ask them, why do you do this? Then you help them by going through their thought processes and showing them that this could have been done like this. Why did you go back this? Then you say, I thought this was like that. So, but when you question them and you show them the way, that is when they will develop. If they can come to the aha, this is it, Eureka, found it, and you can make them see that process, that is when reflection will help them. As long as you don't make them reflect why something did not turn out the way that is expected, and they don't realize why they were wrong, then learning is not going to take place. They have to reflect in many ways, okay, talking to someone, okay, questioning themselves, okay. And I think from my experience, students they will always ask their peers first. It's only when their peers don't help them that they will come to you. The lecturer is always the last person. Even though however hard, however difficult we are, however nice we are, they will still go to their friends first, okay? And then they will probably, their friends can't help them. Some of them are still too shy to come and ask us. They will send you an email first, okay? They will send you an email first, and if you, sometimes I can't answer certain things on email, I say, I think it's a very interesting question you posed, perhaps you would like to come and, okay, can we meet, okay, and discuss this. That is sometimes, then they would say, they will come sometimes, and sometimes they chicken out also, okay. But normally, because I deal mainly with postgraduate students, I think it's important, they are more engaging, okay. Whereas the undergraduates, tertiary students, they sometimes kind of, many a time chicken out because they are not ready. They don't want to see the lecturer one-to-one. Then I say, you can bring your friend along. Then they'll say, sometimes they really want to say, can I bring my friend along? And I say, please do. Because that is important. So ladies and gentlemen, understand the power you have in your hands. Okay, as I told you, okay, teachers, we all have come to this frightening conclusion that the teacher is the most decisive element in the classroom. It's your personal approach that creates the climate at the end of the day, your daily mood that makes the weather, and as a teacher, the power you have in your hands to make a student's life miserable or joyous. You can be the tool of torture or the instrument of inspiration, which we all want to be. You can humiliate or humor, hurt or heal, and in all situations, it's your response that decides whether the crisis will be escalated or de-escalated, and at the end of the day, whether a student will be humanized